GA panel. My name is Grayson. I am the Region 4 student leader. And then I can pass on to y'all, Jake, Belinda, Johnny, if y'all want to introduce yourselves.
I'll go. My name is Jake Heidenreich. I am the Oklahoma State student leader, and I'm also the graduate assistant for strength and conditioning at Oklahoma State University.
I am Belinda Sanchez. I am the Texas student leader, and I am the graduate assistant for fitness and well-being at Texas A&M Commerce.
My name is Johnny. I am the Kansas State leader, and in my first year, I was the facility operations graduate assistant at Emporia State.
Awesome. So we're excited to have y'all on the call. So basically my idea, or I guess our idea, was just to answer some questions, anything really thrown our way about our graduate assistantship experience, how to get one, any tips, tricks, interview skills, whatever y'all have. If you want, you can unmute yourself and ask the question. You can personally message either four of us, Johnny, Jake, Belinda, or myself, a question. You can ask it to the group in the chat, whatever you feel most comfortable with. But basically, we are all ears for anything, any questions that we have thrown our way. So with that said, does anyone have a question right off the bat?
Yeah, I have a question. So applying for grad school can be kind of expensive. And what was you guys' game plan going in, like applying for not only the school, but also like taking your GRE? That can also be a little bit expensive as well. Like what was you guys' game plan going into that?
I'll let any of y'all start off if y'all want.
Yeah, I'll start off. So a lot of schools will you interview for a graduate assistantship before you apply for grad school. Some schools are different, but then at least because you have to pay whatever to go to apply to grad school, usually that doesn't happen until, at least in my experience, all the places I applied to, they didn't require that until after I'd already interviewed for the GA-ship. So once I figured out where I was going to work, then I applied for the schooling, and then I only paid one application fee. So it wasn't overall too terribly expensive.
Yeah, that was very similar to my experience. I knew that I didn't want to take the GRE, so my game plan was to look for graduate assistant positions at universities that didn't require the GRE. So that's how I started looking at positions. And then one of the best pieces of advice that I got from another GA was to draw your line in the sand. And when you're looking for graduate assistant positions, look for what it is that you're wanting. For me, it was, I wanted to get my tuition paid for. I wanted to have a decent stipend. And that's how I also looked at deciding where it is that I wanted to potentially get a graduate assistantship.
Then I'll throw one more thing in there. For me personally, when it came to looking at what schools were offering graduate assistantships, each master's program is going to be a little bit different. They can focus on different things. Here I'm taking health, physical education, and recreation as my master's program, as well as getting my GA. So, when you look into that, make sure, the assistantship is something you enjoy. The stipend or the GRE is along the lines of what you're looking for, but also, make sure, that major kind of goes with what you want to do in the future. So.
Austin, why don't you jump on in and introduce yourself real quick?
Hello, everybody. Sorry for joining in late. My name is Austin Marks. I'm the state student leader here at for Louisiana, and I'm a GA at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. Sorry, a little energized right now, but it's nice to come in and talk to some of these people and tell them about the GA positions and everything like that. What would you like me to talk about, Grayson? Is there anything that you guys are discussing?
Yeah, Justin just asked us about our advice on applying GA school for GA-ship and taking the GRE cost-wise and application fees and stuff like that. So we gave our 2 cents on that. So if you want to dive into that, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, sure thing. So what I would tell everyone is, first of all, when you're looking to take the GRE, one, understand what your program is that you're interested in. I know a lot of programs are going away from that direction, and make sure like it's cost effective. Like if like the cost is worth it. If schools that you're applying to in the area are not going to be looking for that, definitely I'd say gravitate for not taking it. But if there is places where they're looking to, obviously take it if you have to. On top of that, I think that students really should keep a clear mind and look to go anywhere and everywhere. I mean, you are young, right? Still have an open mind on traveling. I came from Ohio down to Louisiana, and I thought that was it was a big leap for me, but I loved every minute of it. There's a culture shock, but I think it develops you in a different manner, and you get to meet a lot of different people. So that's kind of my advice on that whole. Just kind of keep an open mind when you're looking and everything like that.
Taylor, we've introduced ourselves as SLT, and then the question is any advice on application fees for master's programs and the GRE. So if you have any advice that hasn't been said by Austin, go ahead, and then just a quick intro of yourself.
Okay, so yeah, I'm Taylor. I am the facilities grad assistant at the University of Arkansas, and then along with the student leadership team, also working on the facilities committee along with Johnny. So I didn't hear exactly what Austin said, but I would just say like what most people recommended for me, like my pro staff when I was applying, was they all said, wait until you kind of at least get like an interview or something with the GA position before applying to the grad school. Because there's no point really in applying to the grad school if you're not going to get the GA position, if you're mainly looking for the position. For the GRE, I would just say like, make sure you study ahead of time. That way you can plan on just hopefully taking it one time and not really worrying about retaking it. So I know a few people that retook it quite a few times, and that can get pretty expensive. So just, I guess, making sure you're prepped for it the first time you take it. That way you can just get in, get it done, and then have it ready to send out when you start applying to grad school.
I've got a question here. Why did you join Campus Rec? So any SLT, you're free to answer that.
I can go. Personally, for me, intramurals in Campus Rec at my undergrad school was something that I used more as like an outlet, a way to hang out with friends, a way to get involved, stay active. I didn't play any sports. My undergrad school was heavily athletes, and so Campus Rec was something that I felt was kind of like my home or my little niche when it came to staying active. And so moving towards my graduate assistantship, I wanted to look at schools. I wanted to stay in that Campus Rec setting. I know there's a lot of students on campus that maybe they don't play sports, maybe they haven't found something that they can do outside of just schoolwork or something like that. So Campus Rec was something that I feel like is a good outlet for people, and I wanted to still stay in that setting and be able to provide that platform for others. So.
No, Johnny, I think that's a great point. For me, personally, it was more so I was just looking for a job, and I was looking, and my one friend suggested to apply at the rec center. He was in intramurals, facility position opened up, so I was like, hey, I'm gonna decide to apply. I got the job, and I worked my way up through the ranks, like starting like cleaning crew and whatever, became a facility manager, and then through all that, I ended up really loving it and enjoying it. And my mentor at the time really pushed me to become a facility manager and saw a lot in me, and then was talking to me about becoming a GA possibly in the future. And the more I learned about it, the more I fell in love with it and started networking and starting to meet all these different people. And it was almost like a mini family was starting to grow. And the more it grew, the more people you meet, like it's just so many friends start to come in, and you start to see like this relationship amongst everyone and this camaraderie from different schools. It didn't even matter if you were at like the University of Akron, or if you're at University of Louisiana or Oklahoma State. All these schools, like everyone just someone knew somebody, right? And it was crazy to see something like that. And like I just fell in love with how like all that communication, all that networking was happening. And so that's how I ended up becoming more of a GA and wanted to be a part of that system. I wanted to watch it grow and dive more into it. And so here I am.
Yeah, I can't agree more with what Austin said. Just growing up, I felt like I grew up in my undergrad. I grew up in the wellness, our wellness center, our recreation center. That's where I learned what I wanted out of life, and met friends, and so all of the great things that happened to me in undergrad happened at the rec center. So I wanted to help pass that along to future undergrads, and so that's why I wanted to continue that and become a part of a campus rec center somewhere else and be a graduate assistant, so I could help others have the same exact experience that I had when I was an undergrad.
Yes, I'll give my 2 cents. I didn't want to have a job where it was 9 to 5, you know, I hated going to every day. Day one going to campus rec. I mean, campus rec, what I knew was just intramural sports, and I didn't know much about that. And then asking some questions, meeting some new people, that's where my knowledge kind of grew. And I mean, yeah, like I said, I didn't want a job where it was 9 to 5. I hated going to every day. And I can easily say I've not had a single bad day in campus rec. And the people you meet, I mean, they're some extraordinary people. And like everyone else has said, I mean, just passing all the information down the line that we get, I mean, it's pretty fulfilling. So yeah, that's my reason.
For me, it was more of the student development part. Once I kind of worked myself up the ranks, I got to do instructor training. So I got to teach instructors how to become instructors, and seeing them grow and seeing them develop and seeing them just transition into these like wonderful instructors who help others was really what kind of shifted me towards wanting to be in campus recreation and wanting to just help other students kind of go through that same process, whether it was in fitness or whether it was in any other aspect of college life, was what just really drew me to campus recreation. And of course, love of fitness, love of working out, and spending time with other people. So.
Clifford, I saw you unmuted yourself. Did you have a question for us?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you guys had any tips for like interviewing whenever it comes to like going to interview for a graduate assistantship.
You want to go, Austin?
You want me to go, Johnny?
I'll go, yeah. A big thing for me, my boss always kind of drives home the point to be yourself. I mean, there's a lot of things, you know, questions can all kind of seem the same when it comes to interviews. In the school that's interviewing you, you know, they're going to have other interviews, other people that, you know, are coming in, they ask kind of the same questions too. But I think a big thing when it comes to those interviews for you personally is, you know, to try and stand out. Don't just try and go with the cookie cutter responses about, you know, what they want to hear. You know, talk about your own experiences or your growth and why you're passionate about, you know, getting this assistantship or why you would be a good fit. I think too many times we fall into the routine of, you know, trying to say what they want to hear and, you know, being nervous that maybe we're not saying the right thing. But, you know, I think at the end of the day, it comes down to, you they're going to hire you as a person, not you as someone that can answer the questions correctly. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Fit is everything, I would say. When you're sitting there interviewing, I think that's exactly what they're looking for, because everyone's gonna answer the questions kind of similar, unless you just didn't prepare. So I think preparing for it and how you should go about preparing for it is sit down with either your boss or someone that is higher up, like above you, your mentor, what have you, or even like reach out to one of us and have us sit that down and have a interview with you, like a practice interview. Have those sessions. That's what I did. I went through a couple of practice interviews with my assistant director, with my fitness coordinator, the intramurals coordinator. I just went through a lot of practice interviews, just trying to get the experience, try to just calm those nerves. And that really was all it was, is just calming those nerves, trying to stay calm during those interviews when they're asking questions, because once you calm down, you can really let yourself be who you are, like Johnny was saying. So I think that's like the best way to go about practicing for it and getting ready for interviews.
One thing that I would say is go to your career center. Some universities can help you with interviewing skills. And then I know I can speak from at least my undergrad, they had private rooms that you could reserve to have your interview at. So that was very helpful for me because I had 4 roommates and it was a virtual interview when I did graduate assistant interviews. So it cut off all of that like background noise. So I was able to just really focus. And one piece of advice that I got whenever I was interviewing was tell a story. So when they're asking you a question, be able to tell a story on how you were able to either tackle the situation, how you were able to show that skill, and that's going to help you stand out versus just answering the question.
I think one of my best tips that I ever got was don't be nervous to pause after someone asks you a question. Like the interviewers are going to be totally okay if you take a couple seconds to collect your thoughts and then give them a good quality answer, instead of as soon as they answer the question, you're nervous that you want to do it fast and do it quick and try and spit out the right words. And then all of a sudden word garbage comes out of your mouth. Like take a moment, like, okay, I can tell you the right thing and what I really want to hear, instead of making a mess of yourself.
I would say maybe one other thing to think about as you're going through the interviews is it might kind of get put in the back as you're trying to prep and be ready so that they like you as a candidate, but you also really want to get a feel for them and understand the department and everything like that. I know for me, when I was doing interviews, I remember there was one interview where I got out and I was just like, I don't think this would be a good fit. I don't know if I would like it here. And right now I'm at Arkansas, and when I got out of that interview, I immediately thought I really like the feel of talking to them. They seem like really good people. The department seems really good. If they offered me, I know I would take it. So you kind of want to think about the type of place you want to be at as well, because you don't just want to be the person trying to fit in for them. You also want to make sure they fit well with you.
Yeah, and I'll kind of go off what Taylor and Jacob said about research. You come prepared with questions. I know as an interviewee, being interviewed, they're going to ask you nothing but questions and scenarios, but it also is good in return to ask the department questions as well. And you're selling yourself to the department, but also the department needs to sell them to you as well. So by asking them questions, ask them what they're most prideful in that their department does. I mean, don't just sell yourself, make them sell them to you as well. And a tip that I have is I have little sticky notes, which notes on the side is also a good thing. Like Jake said, if you take that pause, take a quick glance at some notes you've written down, and that'll help as well. But I'll get little sticky notes and just kind of post them up on my computer where they can't see them. And, they'll have just some motivational, take a deep breath. You've got this, remain calm, remain cool, stuff like that. I think that kind of goes a long way as well. Just kind of hyping yourself up.
I have a question kind of just going off of what Taylor and Taylor said. What were some characteristics and qualities about both the school and the position that you guys were specifically looking for when you were applying and interviewing?
So I'd say one thing is like when looking on Bluefish jobs where that's going to be pretty much everything, like you really want to read the description and see kind of what you're going to be doing, because there could be a lot of positions that are like very similar in the name, but could entail like completely different things depending on like how the department is structured. So like what you might be doing. So look at it that way. And then like I think for me, like the characteristics I was looking at, like it really just came down to the feel I had with like talking with them. Like it's really just seeing like as you're talking for like 30 or so minutes, however long the interview is, like thinking about, are these the type of people that I would be comfortable with for the next 2 years? Like, do I want to be working in the same room with them? Not right now, sadly, but like hopefully soon. Like, do I want to be like in the same office as them, like in the same building? Do I want to go in and see them every single day? So just kind of seeing it that way. I know one other thing too, I just remember this. One thing somebody told me when I was looking into stuff is when you're looking at a department's website, the quality of their website and how like easy it is to access information and like the amount of information they have for people is a good indicator of like how strong the department is. So like if you can find a whole lot of things about like the department, like their mission and vision, the types of programs they offer, who they offer it to, that can really give you a good understanding of like the reach of the department and like what they're trying to offer to the campus and the campus community.
Go for it, Jake.
All right, yeah. I think just repeating off of what Taylor said, I think he hit the nail on the head, but just trying to find that right culture for you, because like you said, if you're going to sit beside these people for 2 years, you're going to want to like them. So like, I know the thing that sold me on my interview was it stopped becoming an interview and it just became a talk. Like they stopped asking me questions and all of a sudden we were an hour and a half in and I was just having a conversation with these people. I got done with it and I was like, I want to be there, because I mean, I just enjoyed that. I didn't even notice that that was stressful, because they just made me feel like I was part of what was already going on. And that's what I wanted. And maybe that won't always happen. I mean, I feel like that's kind of crazy, but at the same time, like you're trying to gauge how these people are going to be around you every single day. So you got to find the thing that's going to fit the best for you.
I definitely agree with, find that culture, find the people that they're generally going to care about your success and, helping you become the professional you want to be. But then another point, Grayson kind of mentioned it earlier, when it comes to campus rec, there's so many different, paths or options you can take. There's facilities, there's intramurals, there's, a ton of different positions. And so when you're going through that GA search and that process, make sure you look at those descriptions, what those job duties entail, because, from school to school, from place to place, it's going to change what that job might look like. So, find something you like, find something you really care about. And I think, of course, the culture matters a lot. So I think those two are big things.
Another question, is there anything that you know now that you wish you knew when you were applying and or interviewing?
I would say one thing is if they have on there that they just have a preferred deadline for submitting everything, that means there's a deadline. I know when I was starting to look into schools, there was one that was probably the top school I was looking at, and they had a preferred deadline. And because I was so nervous about getting everything perfect to submit, I submitted a little bit after that. And by that point, they had already found somebody that quickly. So if you see a preferred deadline, just go ahead and treat it as a deadline.
Mine would be, my first interview did not go well. I kind of selfishly said, I've got this in the bag. I can handle this myself. I don't need any help. And it was horrible, and I didn't get it. So after that, I asked the supervisor, I asked our GAs, I said, hey, like I need some help. Reach out for help. I don't know of any person in a recreation services department who does not want to help someone get to the next stage in their career, whether it is in campus rec or outside of campus rec. Our professionals are here. They want the best for us no matter what, and they're willing to help us get our foot in the right direction and just progress in our career.
And I think about when it comes to that interviewing, my boss always states, you don't want your dream job or your dream school to be your first interview. You want to make sure practice your interviews, ask for help. Because I think, when I was looking for a GA position, I didn't have enough experience when it came to interviews or knowing what I needed to do to prepare myself. So, knowing what I know now, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to reach out to people so you feel confident and you feel ready. Practice interviews, apply to different places so you get that practice, because I think the more times you do it, the more comfortable you get with doing those interviews. So.
Yeah, my piece of advice would be to not limit yourself. If you think that you would be a great fit, apply for the position, even if you don't think you're 100% qualified. You don't know who you're applying against, and you don't know how many people are applying. So for all you know, it could just be you and one other person, and you can get that interview. So I say go for it, and it will all turn out for the best. You're going to end up where you belong.
I think there's a couple pieces I would share with folks that are going in this direction. The first is talk to your current professionals and your current GAs. Let them know exactly what universities you're looking at. They very well might have a contact there. They probably know people. NIRSA is, while it's a large organization, it's very much a family feel. And so we all know one another. And so you can get a good sense of that organization if they know somebody, and they can give you a little idea about what that department is like, what the expectations are, how you're going to be challenged, and again, whether or not they think it's a good fit for you. That doesn't mean you shouldn't apply, but they certainly can give you some insights into that organization, because the number of different people that professionals may know in this organization is huge. It's a trickle-down effect, and that'll help you, again, have some insights into that organization. And also, you can help tailor that interview to them. I think the other thing is, I tell folks that are considering, certainly going to become a grad assistant, it's kind of like a 2-year military hitch. So look at it as a chance to go somewhere you haven't been before, to go challenge yourself, to do something maybe you weren't quite that sure was within your grasp. So don't limit yourself as you look at grad assistantships as to a specific, I want to be in this part of the country. I mean, certainly if you've got a significant family need, I strongly encourage you to stay in that area. But if you're not in that position, look everywhere. Don't limit yourself, like Belinda said. Don't limit yourself. It's 2 years. Your first semester, you're trying to figure out what keys open what doors. Your last semester, you're job hunting. It's a year and change, and it's a chance to meet some new people in a different area of the country. And so always look at that as an opportunity. And again, in 2 years, it stinks if you loved it, because then you're like, I really want to stay. How do I make that happen? But if it wasn't a great 22 months, it's 22 months out of a lifetime of probably 80 years. So don't be afraid to look at options across the country. Don't limit yourself unless you really need to, because again, certainly if there's family circumstances, I encourage you to strongly make that a priority. But if there aren't, sky's the limit. Go try something. Go somewhere you haven't been before. Go meet new people. Expand your network of people that you can impact and who can impact you.
I have one more question. What is it like balancing grad school and then also the position, and then as well as, like having like a social life as well?
I'll go first. I guess it really depends on your program. honestly, because I know people that only work their 20 hours of their GA position. I know people that work 60 hours every single week and they're drowning in work. I know people that go to class like once every other week because their program is so easy. And I know people that are reading hundreds of pages for their academic program every single week and they're drowning in schoolwork. So everything is can be different depending on who you are, but I think it's really just trying to find that balance of when you got to push hard in work and when you got to push hard in school. Yeah.
Kind of going off what Jake said, for Johnny and I, ours might be a little different than everyone else's, but our whole program's online. So we do our work, we get our work done in the day, no problem. And we work at least 20 hours a week, but there are weeks we put in 60, 40, however much it is. But my thing is we don't have our job as a GA if we don't keep our good grades in school. So I think obviously school is your number one priority. So without good grades, you don't have your job, and then your job falls in line right after your school. And then social life, I mean, sometimes you just need time to just relax and sit by yourself, take a break, have a day to yourself. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
Yeah, I would say first things first is one, try to get organized, right? So get a planner, try to schedule out your class, like go through your syllabi and get like your class load all scheduled in there. And then put like your work hours whenever you're going to be in the office, put it in there. I can't tell you how much this has helped me stay on top of things and stay focused on work and with school throughout the whole process. And also communicate with with the professional staff. They understand. They were in your shoes at one point. They totally get it. If you need a break, let them know. They'll totally back you 100%, but you got to keep that line of communication open. Don't sit there and be hesitant or start distancing yourself and get away from everything. Let it all run away from you. Keep that communication open, like I said, and they'll back you 100%. They'll understand. So yeah, keep that in mind. Okay.
One more thing going off that for me, I think that, like Austin said, have that line of communication with the professional staff, your supervisor. At the end of the day, they want you to succeed. You don't have to try and balance work, school, social life on your own. You don't have to think it's like you're completely abandoned out, trying to figure it out yourself. Professional staff is going to be there to support you in whatever way that is. If you need to talk about your work hours, if you need to figure out how to manage that school schedule, there's people there that are going to help you, that can help you try and balance that work social life. So you're not on your own when it comes to that. So.
And another thing, talk with your professors even. Let them know what kind of situation you're in, right? They understand that not everyone in the master's program does have a GA position, especially one that demands more than possibly 20 hours, right? Explain the situation. Like currently, I'm in a situation where I don't have a coordinator over me. So I have to put in more hours than normal. And so I let my professors know, like, look, here's the situation. And they kind of sometimes extend deadlines for you. They're reasonable. They're people, right? Just like you and I, they understand things. So again, that line of communication with everyone it helps you so much if you're just upfront about everything instead of trying to keep it all in. It's going to go a long way. Trust me.
Everybody and Austin really making a lot of great points on this for Justin's question. And the line of communication is really key, and that starts early. Each university, each department, and each program within a department, I think we all know can be a little bit different. I think it's important too to be asking about how do they handle the different break periods that are going on throughout an academic year. And that doesn't mean you should expect that you're going to be completely off. It doesn't mean that you should expect that I'm going to be working every day. but really ask them, and you don't have to ask them during the interview process, but certainly early in each semester, you can ask them, how are things handled in my role if I'm in facilities versus intramural sports during the administrative closure or during break? You know, the semester ends December 12th, but the facility doesn't close until the 23rd. Am I working? Am I off? What am I doing? Kind of understand the length of your contract and realize that before you start making plane reservations and travel reservations, to talk with people so that you don't put yourself or them in a bad position because you're sitting there with 2 plane tickets saying, I'm supposed to be leaving town, and they're looking at you saying, why would you do that before you asked us? So I think it's important to, you know, Austin's made a lot of great points, that line of communication, but ask those questions early. And again, that doesn't mean a department is good or bad based upon what those responses are, but this way you can be making your plans accordingly and not putting yourself in a box. Because again, all of the programs are different. You know, intramural sports, y'all work late nights, you've got sometimes weekend events, and you're looking over at your folks in aquatics and they look like they're in a rocking chair. Then all of a sudden come a break, the aquatics people are still working because the pool is open, and the intramural people look like they're, you know, they've got nothing to do, you know, and that's a perception. It's not the case. But again, you might also be asked as an intramural person, hey, during the, you know, when we slow down during the holiday break, we want you to get some experience in the facility. So we're going to want you to work. So don't assume anything. Ask, know what the expectation is. And then if you need some wiggle room, like Austin has said, just follow up. Hey, could I make this switch, or could we do this differently? Because, you know, I'm trying to line some other things up. And we all realize in this profession, we got into it because of the quality of life. And so don't let that go to the side, but don't also expect that just because classes are out, you're out. It could, you know, may not be the same.
Okay, I've got a few questions that came across. One that I'd like everyone to give their 2 cents on is pros and cons of a bigger school to a smaller school for graduate assistantship.
I'll go on this one quick because I got to head out. But my undergrad was at a very small school, and so my bosses really pushed me to go to a bigger school where there's more. You don't want to necessarily say siloing, but there's more diversity in how it's run. Like where I went to undergrad, we had 3 total GAs, and then here at Oklahoma State, when I showed up, there was 15. Like, just the size of the program really changed my perspective on a lot of things of what I had seen in my undergrad. And I could see how that would be flip-flopped if I went to a really big school in undergrad, going to a small school where I would have a lot of things to do and smaller budgets and all of that could really change your perspective. So I think the flipping can be beneficial.
And so I am actually on the flip side of Jake. I went to a really big university, so we had about 70,000 students, and I came to a small university with about 8. So it was a real big culture shock when I first started. But one of the pros that I can definitely talk about is that I get way more responsibilities, both in my program and outside of my program, than I did when I was at a larger university where you just stuck to your program and that was your niche. So now I oversee both group fitness and personal trainers. I look at well-being and the aspect of the entire community. I got to be a part of the strategic plan and other different committees within our department. So that was a really big pro for me when I came to a smaller university.
So my experience, it's not really the university size for me, because like the university size were the same going from University of Akron to the University of Louisiana. But the thing that was different was the building itself. So again, do your research. My campus rec building at University of Akron during my undergrad was a lot larger than the building here. It UL, they share a department with kinesiology, and it's a satellite facility. Now, what that means is that there's going to be less traffic in your building. So the difference is how many people are coming through the building, how much the staffing is a lot different. We have a lower budget. So working with different things, might not necessarily be the size of the university, but it's going to be the size of your campus rec building, where it's located, how things function throughout that building, and so on and so forth. So do your research on that. And the difference between it was kind of life-changing, because I thought I was getting in my hands of something different, and it was totally opposite. A lot more work was asked when you're working with such a smaller staff, that you're trying to work throughout all these different procedures and policies and trying to create something more. UL was kind of outdated when I got here, and we're still trying to move along. So again, understanding what you're getting yourself into, do your research and your due diligence. And I think it's going to go a long way in understanding exactly what to do in the future.
So kind of going off what Austin just said, like for me, I didn't really have much diversity in the size of the school, going from one SEC school to another. But also, like you said, just looking at the type of facility and how it is. When I was at Tennessee for undergrad, our building was completely our building for the department. Like we ran everything, opened it, closed it. Pretty much every square foot of that building was for us. And then now here at Arkansas, we're in a split building where we share it with a part of an academic college. So it's a whole lot of shared space and having to work with them. So just kind of looking more into how you're going to be doing stuff with that, because that adds in a whole different dynamic with it. And kind of the same with like satellite facilities, like you said, like depending on what area you're looking at, like here at Arkansas, our fields are like right next to campus, whereas at Tennessee, our intramural and club sports fields were a good like 5-10 minutes away that not many people went out to use. So just kind of seeing what you're going to get to do, kind of like how the programming is based off of how the department is set up, because there could be smaller schools that are run more efficiently and like do a lot more things for campus rec than say a small school. So just really looking into that.
One of the biggest things for me, I went from small school to small school, started a D3 school for undergrad, and now I'm here at ESU. And I think one of the biggest pros that I've seen from the small school atmosphere is how hands-on I've been and how many more opportunities I've had to be involved. I'm not saying that bigger school doesn't have those opportunities, but from what I've seen, I think it's a big pro to be able to have that smaller staff, have places where you can volunteer, get involved with NIRSA. At least for me, I think small school atmosphere is something that I've enjoyed. I think it's a pro. So.
Hey folks, this is Eric. I'm gonna be heading off to a different presentation, but first I want to say y'all are hitting stand-up triples and home runs. So your questions and your engagement been fantastic. I hate to lean on a old person's response, but it truly is what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. At a smaller or a mid-sized university, you probably are going to have the opportunity to have your hands in a few more programs and different areas that you may not be able to get from that large school that is really looking for you to be a specialist in one area. But again, if y'all are as good, in what you're doing as GAs and potential GAs as you are on this phone call, you're going to be successful in whatever you do next. But again, it does take your passion. It takes asking questions. It takes sharing. It takes being reflective enough to know you don't know it all, just like myself. And just, go into it with a positive attitude of this is going to be the best 2 years of my career. And then you take it from there. But it really is going to be what you put in and what you get out of it is going to be the same. So don't hold yourself back. Be open to new options and opportunities, and just keep leading. But y'all are doing great with this. Y'all are being adaptive, and you're being very, very positive in how we're handling things now in a different situation. So congratulations to all of you, and thanks for letting me drop in on this for a little bit. I'll see y'all later. Okay, thanks.
So with that, I do thank everyone for submitting your questions and SLT for answering them and helping us out. We are kind of running short on time. I am about to send a Google form in the chat. If you could please fill that out to give us some feedback on the conference for years to come if we want to keep doing this panel. We are also doing a student lead on February 3rd through the 4th. It'll be virtual just like this was. More information will be coming out in the near future. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to any of us. Our emails are floating around somewhere on some Google Slides, I'm sure. But so yeah, thank you all for attending. Thanks for everyone for answering and putting the questions in. Have a good day.